200 years from now, people are going to dig through our history books, watch our old videos, and laugh at us. They're going to sit in classrooms or whatever future learning looks like, and their teacher will pull up an image of someone in a suit stuck in traffic at 7 a.m. chugging a burnt coffee heading to a job they hate just to collect a paycheck that barely covers rent. And the whole class will gasp and say, "Wait, they actually lived like that?" And the teacher will say, "Well, yes, and they called this progress." They'll see our 30-year mortgages and think we were slaves voluntarily chaining ourselves to debt. They'll see our 9-to-5 jobs and wonder why we let our most valuable resource, our time, be sold for scraps. They'll read about how we begged banks for permission to borrow our own money and stood in lines at the DMV just to get a laminated piece of plastic that said we existed. They'll look at our obsession with paper money, money that loses value every year, and they'll laugh. And here's the sick part. We actually think we're doing well. We flex on social media because we financed a car at 7% interest. We celebrate a raise that barely covers inflation. We work for 40 years praying that retirement will be the reward, only to spend our last decades on a fixed income, cutting coupons and counting pennies. 200 years from now, they won't see hardworking citizens, they'll see prisoners. Not locked in cells, but in a system so efficient we actually defend it. We call it the economy. We call it normal. But in the future, they'll call it insanity. In 200 years, they'll look at our banks the way we look at medieval bloodletting. They'll ask, "Wait, you kept your life savings in a system that loaned it out to other people and then charged you fees for holding it?" And we'll have to admit, yes, that's exactly what we did. We deposited our paychecks into accounts that paid us 0.01% interest while the bank made 8% lending it out. They'll laugh at our credit scores, a 3-digit number that decides whether you're allowed to buy a home, rent an apartment, or even get a job. In the future, they'll probably track value based on actual output, not whether you paid off a Macy's card in 2014. And here's where it gets really embarrassing. They'll learn that we traded time for money without understanding that both are currencies, but time is the one you can't get back. We worked for decades, only to give a chunk of every paycheck to taxes and another chunk to interest payments and another chunk to bills, until there was nothing left but scraps. Then we called that making a living. 200 years from now, they'll think the stock market was comedy. They'll see people staring at flashing green and red numbers like they were oracles, not realizing the game was rigged from day one. They'll shake their heads when they find out that companies could lose billions, fire thousands of workers, and still have their stock price go up because of market confidence. And let's not even get started on retirement accounts. They'll find out we put our futures in the hands of mutual fund managers and target date investments that maybe give us 6% returns while inflation eats half of it. They'll see we gambled our entire old age on hope that the markets wouldn't crash, hope that the government wouldn't change the rules, hope that we wouldn't live long enough to run out of money. They'll realize we built our entire financial system on debt. Debt for cars, debt for houses, debt for college, debt just to buy a couch. We've normalized being broke for life so long as the payments clear each month. And when they study us, they won't call us modern. They'll call us indentured servants with Wi-Fi. 200 years from now, they'll laugh at how we treated money like it was something to spend instead of something to deploy. They'll read about people getting paid on Friday and being broke by Monday. Not because they didn't earn enough, but because they bought crap they didn't need to impress people they didn't even like. And they'll ask, wait, they had access to the most powerful investing tools in history, and they used them to buy $12 milkshakes? They'll see we were living in an age of infinite leverage, the ability to reach customers, start businesses, and make money from anywhere in the world. And we wasted it binge-watching reality TV and complaining we were stuck. They'll shake their heads when they realize that the average person had a supercomputer in their pocket and used it to scroll TikTok instead of building assets. They'll study our obsession with brands, how people would take out high-interest credit cards just to wear the right logo on their shirt. And they'll call it financial cosplay. Because in the future, status won't come from what you wear. It'll come from what you own. They'll be horrified at how little we understood compound interest, not just how it could build wealth, but how it was destroying us in reverse. They'll see credit card companies charging 25% interest and wonder why anyone agreed to those terms. And when they find out that millions of people carried those balances for decades, they'll think we were clinically insane. They'll laugh at how we celebrated debt payoff as if it was a financial win. Future generations won't have to get out of debt because they won't voluntarily chain themselves to it in the first place. And here's the part that's going to make them lose it. They'll discover that we actually trusted governments to manage the value of our money. Even as they printed trillions of dollars out of thin air, they'll see how we kept stacking cash in savings accounts while inflation was robbing us blind, quietly, month after month, and we called that playing it safe. To them, our entire system will look like a rigged casino the house always won, and we kept coming back to the table, smiling, ready to lose again. 200 years from now, they'll see our financial habits the way we see bloodletting in the 1800s. Outdated, reckless, and borderline self-harm disguised as normal. They'll see people taking 30-year mortgages on houses they couldn't truly afford, celebrating when the bank approved them, not realizing they just signed a contract to be an employee for the next 3 decades just to keep a roof over their head. They'll wonder how we allowed retirement to be this mythical finish line that almost nobody crossed in time. How millions spent their lives working jobs they hated, saving just enough to maybe survive a few years before their bodies gave out. And the wild part? We actually knew the math didn't work. We could see it on paper, and we still lined up for the same deal. They'll study the stock market of our era and think it was rigged, because it was. High-frequency traders skimming pennies millions of times a day while the average investor fought over scraps. And instead of learning the game, most people handed their money to strangers in suits and hoped for the best. They'll look at our tax system and laugh, not because taxes existed, but because we voluntarily paid more than we had to. Future generations will see billionaires moving money legally across borders, paying next to nothing, while the middle class called it unfair, yet never learned how to do the same. And here's the kicker. They'll view financial education as a basic survival skill. The same way we teach kids how to read and write, they'll teach them how to leverage debt, how to protect assets, how to multiply money without working more hours. And they'll look back at us handing high school graduates a diploma, but zero money skills, and call it generational negligence. 200 years from now, the people who win will be the ones who own systems, not jobs. They'll look back at us, trading time for dollars, and wonder how we ever thought that was the game. Because in their world, time will be the only thing you can't buy more of, and money will be the tool you use to make sure you never run out of it. The future will see us as the transition generation, stuck between the industrial grind and the financial renaissance. Some will pity us, some will laugh at us, but all of them will agree. We were insane for doing this with money. Here's the thing most people don't want to face. We're living in an economy where money doesn't just measure value, it manipulates it. And we, the so-called modern people, play along like it's normal. We still trade hours of our lives for numbers on a screen. Numbers that can be erased with a click. We let inflation eat our savings like termites in the walls. And then we thank the same system that caused it helping with interest rates. It's Stockholm Syndrome in a suit. 200 years from now, they'll look back and say, wait, you let your retirement be managed by a stranger who got paid whether you made money or not? Wait, you willingly signed a 30-year mortgage at a fixed rate while banks played the interest rate lottery? Wait, you stored your life's work in a currency that wasn't backed by anything real? And the answer will be, yeah, we did. Because we were told that's just the way it works. You think your grandkids will thank you for playing along? They won't. They'll pity you for living in the age of debt slavery disguised as opportunity. Here's the facts. You're not in the money game until you're out of the wage game. The wealthy figured that out centuries ago. They own assets that pay them whether they're awake or asleep. They don't just earn money, they position money. They make it move, multiply, and defend itself. And if you're sitting there thinking you've got time, you don't. Because the game doesn't wait, the rules don't care, and the clock only runs one way. So when you hear in 200 years they'll think we were insane for doing this with money, remember, we don't need to wait 200 years to see the insanity. It's right now. It's every paycheck. It's every transaction. It's every dollar that's not working harder than you are. The question is, are you going to keep playing their game, or are you going to learn to own it? Because here's the lesson. In this world, money is a predator. You can be the prey, or you can be the one holding the leash.